all my crafty people out there. I have a new project that we're going to attempt. I always say attempt because you never know exactly how it's going to come out when you're making it up as you go. What I'm going to do is take a pair of good old jeans, and these happen to be LL Bean. What is that? Favorite fit. I've tried them on. They fit. They're a little big, but that's good because you always want a little bit of extra size in case you need to. It's easier to size it down than it is to size it up. So this is just a pair of plain jeans, and yes, they're short. I'm short. They're petites, and there's nothing fancy about them. Just little behind pockets. We may do something with these pockets and jazz them up. I'm not sure. I'm not really willing to take them off, so whatever I do, I'll have to be hand stitched on. And then what we want to do with these, I'll show y'all the best I can. I've seen this on my favorite Pinterest. What they're doing is they're cutting out part of the leg and replacing it with lace. So they're doing it at an interesting angle where they're kind of doing a curve in, out, in, and they're cutting out that portion and replacing it with lace, and a little bit more lace obviously than the leg to give it that bell effect. Now I've gone over and over. I bought a dress that had some really pretty colorful lace, but it's that kind of lace that once it's washed it starts to stick to itself and it doesn't flow properly. I have found this in my stash. I bought this months ago at Goodwill, and I believe it was $1.99 for this lace. It's kind of a light teal blue kind of color. It's a fairly pretty lace, as lace goes, and I think it'll look great on the leg of the jeans. So this is what we're going to use. $1.99 for probably, I'd say it's about a yard of lace that I found at Goodwill. And these jeans, I found these at Goodwill is also, they were $5.99, I think, $5.99 or $4.99. I'm sorry, $4.99 for the jeans. So $4.99 for the jeans, $1.99 for the lace, and we're going to see if we can make a cute pair of jeans with this. So let's get going. Okay, the first thing I'm trying to do, is figure out how much of my jean pant leg I want to replace with the lace. And the design that I like online has this kind of curve to it, and they've taken out all of this from both sides of the jeans, so it's a pretty substantial amount of jean that's removed. I also noticed that in the back they don't sew it down. The lace is not sewn to the jean, and I know why. I've tried this process before, and getting your machine up in here and back down is a nightmare. So we'll see if I take that route or not, but I think this might be the shape I'm looking for. It is a lot of jean to remove. We're going to give it a try. I'm going to take this part off, and I'm going to use it as a pattern to take the other leg off. And I've already taken the edge off of this lace. Apparently it comes with some kind of edging on it that if you remove it, you get the nice scalloped edge. So that's what I want at the bottom, and I think the 36 inches divided in half will be the amount that I will need for each leg. So I should be able to do a leg out of each side or each half of this, with the length probably only being my short self somewhere in the 27, 28 range, give or take. give or take a seam allowance. And that should, yeah, actually about 26, 27. That's going to cover that part. And I'm going to seam on the outside of the jean. I got a pair of jeans that are, I believe, yes, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can fold it over for you. But it is 99% cotton and 1% spandex. There's a lot of spandex in jeans today. So, but if you have a higher cotton count than spandex, it'll get that nice soft fringe fray when you cut the denim. And that's what we're looking for as well. We're going to sew on the outside. The lace is going to be on the inside, but we're going to sew on the outside so this outside edge fringes. All right, let me get this cut out, and I'll get back with you when we're ready to size up the lace. All right, what I'm doing here is I'm just using the piece that I cut out of the other leg as the pattern, and I'm using my seamstress chalk. I'm not sure what it's called. And I'm just outlining this. And so now I've got the outline, and I'm going to cut that out as well. And once I cut that out, we'll be ready to figure out our lace situation. And we can use that denim for something else. And here's our basic cutout. That's a lot of cutout. So we're going to see if we can make the lace work in these big pockets, and we're also going to add lace, probably gathering it at the top somewhat to give it more of a bell effect. We're looking for kind of a bell bottom look. Okay, we've got our lace laid out, and what I'm looking for is about, like I said, I think it was 26. We're going to go with 26.5 inches. I think that'll give us plenty of room to sew it to our jeans. So we're just going to use this template again, and you can see that it runs right at 26 inches. I love this board. Everybody needs a self-healing board if they're gonna sew. It just makes it a lot easier. So I'm actually going to go ahead and cut it at 27, just so I have nice room up top, because this is lace, so we're probably gonna, it's good thick legs though. It's not real sparse. It's curling up on the ends down here, but I think I can make that work with my sew it on to the jeans. I don't want to necessarily, I might iron it with a cool iron, a warm iron, not a hot iron. I don't know exactly what this is made out of since I got it at Goodwill. So anyway, I'm going to push this down here. I'm going to push this up here. I'm trying to use the lines on the grid just to give me a good base. And that should work. Now, I'm going to use my good old hemi ruler and my rotary cutter. This will make it a lot faster. So I'm going to line this up. This particular ruler, I'll try to include it in my information down there. It has a lip on the edge and it holds on to my self-healing pad, and that's really nice. So we're just going to cut that in half right there, and we can always use extra legs later. Now we have the length we need to go in the insert, and this is 2 pieces. I need to cut this in half. And I can do that a couple ways, but I'm probably just going to snip it up the middle by hand. Just want to make sure that these edges are meeting really well, because you can see they're kind of curly. I don't need no curly stuff. All right, I'm just going to slip it down the end here. We're not doing anything. Now I could use my quilting ruler again and my rotary cutter and just cut a little sliver off the edge down here. I could also do that to clean up that edge over there where the curliness is. But for some reason I'm taking the long route. I'm just using my scissors and cutting. So now I have 2 pieces, and this does have a wrong side and a right side. I think that this is the wrong side and this is the right side with a little more detail, but I could be wrong. Honestly, it's just your preference. So let's see if we can fit this in to our pants, and I'll get back with you when I've got it pinned. Okay, everybody. This was more of a challenge than you would think, and the reason being, there's a couple of reasons. One, we're not going to be able to sew from the inside. In other words, right sides to right sides. We have to sew on the outside, which is really okay because we want this outside edge to fringe and fray and give us that kind of, boho kind of look, I'm not sure what we call it, but because this is a high cotton jean, this should fray nicely, and we'll throw it in the wash a couple of times to get it to fuzz up on us. So what we're going to do, what I did after I cut the lace out, I did have to shape the lace at the top and curve it a little to meet this curve that we've cut into our jeans. And I also cut this part straight. It did have a little curve in it. I was going for fancy, and fancy was difficult to get to line up, so we went with straight. But I think it's still going to look great. All I did was pin it wrong sides to wrong sides all the way down, and then when I got up here in the curve, I had to do some pleating. And honestly, I pleated it towards the back. So I have one small pleat here in the front. First I met the centers. So I folded this lace in half, and I met that center with that seam on my jeans. So I ended up with this much fabric in the top, in the front, that needed to be pleated. And it's probably, I don't even know if it's an inch altogether. So I pushed it towards the back. Then I started at the bottom of the back and went all the way up and ended up with these 2 little pleats. It's just the fabric to make that curve in the jean that we've cut, and honestly the gather or the pleat that we're creating is just going to make this leg a little fuller. I think it's going to look fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the machine, and we're going to run up the leg all the way around and sew it down. Now when we sew it, it's not going to be flush, or it may fall flush because the jean material is heavier. But what I thought I might do, and we will play around with this, I have a ton of buttons. This is a extremely tiny jar of what I have, and most of these have come off of shirts that I've been using to make little dresses. So I have a ton of buttons, and I thought what we might do is to tack this down and kind of give it a finished edge. After I've sewn it together, I thought we might just add buttons just sporadically, not buttonholes, but just buttons as decoration. And then we could even put buttons around the pocket, the top and the front, and maybe even in the back. I'm not taking these pockets off. There's a lot of satin stitching on them. They're well constructed, and I'm not sewing those puppies back on. But I may put some buttons in them, maybe even some big decorative ones, just for, I don't know, decoration. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this as I go. So I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. We're going to go see if I can get at least one leg sewn up properly, and then we'll know if this is going to work. All right, see you there. Okay, good news. I was able to sew it as it was pinned. So I went from one hem of the jeans all the way to the other side, and at the top I just made sure that these pleats were taken care of, and they were included. Now, as I was expecting, the jean fabric just kind of folds, the heavier jean fabric folds over the lighter lace, which is perfect for me. This is going to fray and create that frayed look, and I may come back and clip the lace closer to the seam line. That way, because it's not going to fray. It may fray a little bit, but I don't think it's going to fray much. But this top layer of the jean, where the seam is, that should fray and get kind of fuzzy. Hopefully. That's why I got the high denim, high cotton piece. So anyway, the pants, the lace is inserted in the leg, and I'm going to sew on the second one. Again, I'm starting from the bottom, and I'm going to go up, go around the curve, and come down. It gets a little, not complicated, but you have to keep track of the way your fabric is running, because you're dealing with this big leg. You got to turn it inside the needle a couple of different ways, the other excess material, that is. But I'm going to run through this, and then we're going to go look at the next step. So again, I'm just starting. I wanted my stitching, which I'm using a kind of a, it's a goldy color, like the stitching of the jeans. I wanted it to show on the outside. Honestly, it doesn't really show that much. I mean, you can see right there it is, but it's not a huge showing, but it is the same color as the stitching on the jean. I was going to do a zigzag, but this is a pretty solid piece of lace, so it holds on pretty well. Regardless, I want to have that fabric or that thread on the outside, so I'm going to start from one side of the leg, and I'm going to start with it laying like this on my machine. So all that excess fabric, I got to make sure it's straight and pulled out to the side so I don't catch it and loop it into my seam. But it's the only complicated part is the way when you turn up here, you have to kind of turn your jeans in and out to get them right. So anyway, I'm going to start. What I'm doing, I'm leaving my needle in the center position of my foot. This is just a generic sewing foot. It comes with the machine, but it's like a all-purpose kind of foot. And I am sewing with the fabric right against my presser foot. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to leave enough room for it to get fuzzy. I want it to be fuzzy and frayed. So again, I'm just making sure that runs, that fabric, the edge of it runs right under the foot. My needle's in the center position. It's going to go down, and it's probably going to leave a little, let's see how much. This is about 3/8 of an inch. So it's not a very wide, but it's a little wider than, you know, than a quarter, but not much. All right. Oops. I am going to start sewing this, and I will see y'all on the other side. Okay. Well, we have sewn our legs on. As you can see, we sewed them wrong side to wrong side, and that is about a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I just used my presser foot as the guide. And what this is going to do is this is going to fray, which is exactly what we want it to do, or at least what I want it to do. And we've replaced the leg. We've widened it a little bit, so you can see both of these together. And what we're going to do now, I think what I'd like to do, now the seam folds over the lace perfectly, and like I said, it's going to fray, which is exactly what I want to do. I'm going to throw it in the wash and let it start fraying. But I might put some buttons along this seam allowance just for decoration. I think it needs something. I mean, the lace looks great. It's a beautiful color, but I think it needs more embellishment somehow. And we're going to start with buttons, and we may work with putting some buttons on the pockets around the edges. I don't want them to be cumbersome and in the way, but I do want them to be cute and decorative. And then we also might put some on the back pockets. Again, I don't want them to be in the way. I don't want to go scoot in a chair or a booth and have them get into something, but I do want them to be a little more decorative, and maybe even something up here in this area. Maybe we'll do, you know what, maybe we'll cut some lace out and put some lace in these areas too. Who knows? We're just going to keep going until we find that perfect match of what we want it to look like. Alright everyone, I finished my jeans, at least to this point. I put the inserts in. I think we saw that already, but I wanted to show y'all what I did to kind of embellish them, and I also wanted to kind of tack down these edges. So I added buttons all the way up. It ends up being about 70 buttons. At the top I did a little extra, some big buttons and little buttons, but it goes all the way down the front and the back. I've already washed these a couple of times and they're getting nice and fuzzy. I have worn them out and got quite a reaction, so they're really cool. I just wanted to show you what I've done because I talked about putting all kinds of embellishments on the pockets and in the back, and honestly I just like them the way they are. So this is the end of this video. I'm going to upload, and I hope that y'all enjoy it. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate all your support, and by all means, if you have some ideas or something you want to see me do or try, just let me know and comment below. Alright, y'all have a great one.